Oh, I think I'm actually going to stand. That feels, well, I want to
Do
sit.
it.
I don't know. Oh,
Transitioning from work mode. Uh, there's a lot going on right now.
there is. Karina's on. Turn on my relational circuits and just getting present with you because
Yeah.
oh man, we're live. We got people watching.
One of the things that we do for those that are listening is, I mean, this is just a normal like human thing, probably not a Luke 10 thing, but we do it in Luke 10. Is just like anytime we're getting on a call or a meeting, it's like we want to make sure that we're all like fairly present, or even just saying like I'm not present and I can't be present today because of something that's going on. So it's like just to know where we are, and so that's why we're not jumping right in. We're kind of, we both know that we've been getting this live stream ready all day, so we're kind of just like
Another fun thing is just turning on our relational skills, our relational circuit, sorry. Checking to see maybe you need to go to the bathroom, maybe I just needed to stretch, to feel some deep breaths and just center yourselves. And another way we do that is by checking in, sharing how we're feeling with each other. Do you want to go first or do you want me to?
I can go.
Go for it.
So, how much of this should we sort of like frame as we're doing it? You want me to do a 10-second intro to what we're doing?
Nah, let's just jump in. Let's just
All
do
right,
it.
I'm checking in. All right, I'm checking in. Really excited, happy, and relieved that we're in it. We're doing this now. Yeah, something we've been planning for a while, and lots of work involved. I'm also feeling like physically, I'm still feeling like that, a little bit of the tension in my back and my neck and stuff. And then so yeah, and kind of like catching up with my with my breath, and but yeah, very very excited and happy, and even knowing like the people that are jumping in to watch, the people that are familiar with our community or aren't. I feel really happy and happy to sort of like open up the doors and say hello. Hey, this is who we are and what we're doing. So yeah,
Mm,
I'm excited,
mm, thank you.
and that's it. We say I'm in sometimes. I'm in.
I'm glad to have you here. Um, I am cold because my fan is on, so I'm going to turn off my fan real quick. Just just realized I was chilly, and I am checking in as nervous and excited. Um, yeah, I think the nervousness now is for my body. Like, will this tension disappear? Will this tension disappear? Will I be able to like actually relax? I don't know. We'll find out. I do know how to take care of myself though, so that's good. And excited. Just like you said, I think sharing all of our meetings live is kind of thrilling, kind of fun, and hopefully it'll help. I'm not really sure. But yeah, I think. See here, is there anything else? Hmm. I'm also really thankful for you. I'm really glad you have the first spot here and that we're doing this together. So, yeah. Amen. So
Let's go.
all of this week, we are going to be hosting what's called Gentle Curiosity with all of our staff and our trainers and the people in the Luke 10 ecosystem that are making Luke 10 run. And it's just going to be a series of get to know you questions, more or less. So, Zach, why don't you start by telling us a little bit about yourself and where you are, what you do, and then we'll get into more of the gentle, curious questions.
Yeah. Zach Lavallee. I am in Springfield, Massachusetts, not Boston. And I posted and said, not the same. So we're Western Mass, and yeah, I'm here with my wife, who I've been married to for 14 years, I think, in August, and we have 5 kids, 3 older ones. They're 7, 8, and 11, and then the 2 babies, the twins. So we love our family very much, and we're homebodies. We like to just hang out at home a lot of the time. I'm kind of like half stay-at-home dad, half um, marketer of sorts. I'm constantly in flux of how I describe myself and what I do. But as of late, I've been just saying I'm a marketer. So, and then I work with Luke 10, and so I'm in facilitator training, sort of like I'm like eternally in facilitator. I'm training to be a facilitator for Luke 10, and then I also you're sort of like a client, but then I'm working for you. I haven't decided how to describe that, but because I just love, like, you guys are like family, so it's whatever. And so I'm on a few of the different circles in Luke 10, which are just like organizational teams, communications, and I kind of just float around the organization seeing where I can help. But yeah, I love it. It's my favorite thing.
Thank you. And you said your anniversary is in August. When in August? Mine is also in August.
August 9th.
Ooh, August 3rd.
Nice.
Yeah.
Yep.
Very fun.
And you guys will be 4 years in August?
3 years in August.
3 years in August,
yeah.
Cool.
I rounded up yesterday when we were talking.
Okay.
Yeah. So you mentioned that you kind of like went over this really quickly. You said Luke 10's like a family, so like it's whatever.
Mm-hmm.
How did you first hear of Luke 10, and what was that like?
Yeah. I don't know if I should give like the micro story. I don't want to go too hard, too broad. But we were in recovery from a really painful church experience that sort of left us disoriented and trying to piece together what church is and what it should look like for us. I had been sort of awakened to church as family, and I was studying like these guys that were doing organic church, simple church, sort of thing. I'm sort of house church, but I don't use that word because it can get confusing. But yeah, so a couple years into this process, I was trying to like dabble in my own, trying to make up stuff and start things, programs almost like at home. And then I stumbled upon some random podcast, and this guy, John White, was talking about what they do. No, I don't even know if it was John White. It may have been another guy. It may have been Jim Mellon. I don't know. Some guy. And he was talking about Luke 10, so I got on their website and I signed up for their intro call, which leads into Church 101. And there's no cost. There was no cost. I was like, this is interesting. So I joined, and I actually found an old Instagram story in my archives the other day, and I was like, I'm on this call with someone from, it was like Singapore, Ireland, Australia, like people from all over the world on this call, and we're just interacting.
Oh my god.
But anyway, that's how I found Luke 10, was a random podcast, and then I got on the website and did Church 101, and everything changed after that first session.
Everything changed.
Everything changed.
Wow. So if you're willing, tell me more about what changed, and maybe you can start small and then go big.
Yeah.
What were the key elements that kind of helped you reframe or grasp or whatever?
Yeah. So I think one thing was, I think the initial thing was I was still thinking of things almost like programs. Just like I started to think like, okay, what if I did it at home or at coffee shops? But it was still very programmatic. I was still trying to like be the guy that did the thing.
Mm-hmm.
And as I was in our Luke 10 community, it was I kept seeing people that were being church. They were talking about like their life and some of the rhythms. We call them the rhythms of attention, but essentially like certain spiritual practices that we do in Luke 10. And there weren't a lot of people there wasn't a big emphasis on like starting a thing. There was like being with Jesus and being with people. So there was like this paradigm shift going on with that.
Between the being and the doing and creating.
Yeah. It was like I was still trying to like start a thing, and like it wasn't official unless I was starting a thing.
And why, if I can ask, why did you feel like you had to start a thing or do a thing?
I think just in the traditional sort of institutional stream of Christianity, and then like ministry training, Bible college, seminary training, it's just programmatic. I think it naturally happens that way because that's what we have. That's like the system. And so you have to train to be a leader, and then you create a thing and you call people to follow you in that thing. So you're sort of like the leader. You're the head of a program or an initiative or a campaign, and you find people that you cast the vision, and you find people that will follow you. And so I was like just trying to do that at a smaller level. And yeah, I think that was like, it's just what was inherited, and it's really, I think there's an unlearning. That was the other big piece. There's a big unlearning process, and I've heard other people that are in a similar process, which is a lot of Luke 10, is like unlearning is a challenging piece of the paradigm shift. Even now, like I still have like there's Sundays. Sunday morning is still this like cue. It's like Sunday morning means like church gathering, like official, like there has to be an order of service, and so it's still like I've been hanging out with Luke 10 for over 3 years now. I think almost 3.5 years. And it's like, so there's still a lot of that. There's still a lot of that shifting that's taking place. So anyway, and then the last piece I think is just like this big piece of like relational skills, and we talk about the intersection of, it's essentially like brain science stuff that we talk about, like people that are figuring out like why being together is so important. Like even last night on Instagram, I was talking about being alone is like the worst part of these painful church experiences, or feeling alone. And like as I've studied, and we talk about it a little bit in Luke 10, is like that being alone is like one of the most base brain pains that we experience as human beings, where we don't have anybody with us, or we don't feel like anybody is with us, or we don't feel that someone is glad to be with us no matter what. So that was probably the most transformative thing long term, because as I've interacted with Luke 10 and as I've practiced the things that we teach with other people every day, experiencing being glad to be with somebody else no matter what has transformed my life. So it's like it has removed like performance and shame and hiding and any stuff, like the pretending and everything's cool. And so there's a lot of healing has taken place in that, like joy. We call it being joy fueled in Luke 10. That's like our phrase. Being joy fueled is like being glad to be with each other no matter what. And like that becomes our fuel for everything. So I probably did go big there, but that's
no, I think you did. Yeah.
I could talk all day about this stuff, so I'm trying to trim it down. But
you're doing fine. If you see me looking over, I'm just looking at the questions over here. And if you are joining us live, feel free to throw in a question for Zach in the chat box, and I will be sure to check them and we can ask him. So you talked a lot about how the joy has and the experience of joy has kind of changed and healed you from some shame and some other just areas and this different paradigms, and you're shifting and growing, and it's amazing. What has it looked like for you and your family? These rhythms, or the rhythms not applicable?
Yeah, no, we practice them together, and so there's a few things that we practice together. So one of them is checking in, like we did at the beginning, and we do it with our kids kind of straightforward, like we did. My wife and I, a lot of times, it's a little more like it's more of like, instead of sitting down and checking in, like I am checking in, it's a little more like an understanding or a culture in the home that's still growing and expanding, but yeah, so that invitation is always there to say how you're feeling, and to not be judged for how you're feeling, or yeah, just to be like, I don't like some being able to say this is how I'm feeling, and start to, and I guess the rhythms have given us a language and a framework for us to communicate, and I would say that it's probably the hardest at the home level for me, for some reason. Like for Kristen and I, there's a lot of, I think sometimes there's like triggers, there's like past baggage from like our family experiences and things like that. So that's one of the reasons we've adapted it a little bit, is because we had to figure out what was working for us, and how we could sort of like grow into it more.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I'd say it's given us a language and a framework for communicating and being together, being glad to be together no matter what. And yeah, I'm trying to think of like how else to describe. Yeah, I think also like having that joy piece is like, I could be really heavy or stressed or anxious, or Kristen can be, and so to be like, this is who I am and this is where I am, and we've had like years of healing from other, even aside from church, like other like anxiety and depression, and some of that is persistent and some of that has healed, and so learning how to be with each other in those things, and to be like, another thing we do in Luke 10 is when someone's sharing heavy emotions, and being able to not fix them, not give advice, but to ask what they need, and give them like the dignity of saying what they need. Maybe they don't want advice. Maybe they just need
Instead of just assuming what they need and giving them stuff. Yeah.
And then, which is also like another thing that for us at least is very challenging in the home, because there's that emotional back and forth talking about it, but then there's like the logistics of the home, and there's like work, and so there's a lot that's going on. It's very challenging, at least for us to figure out like we're still growing in that. So she'll be like, what do you need? And I'm like, I think I just need some time, or like I feel overwhelmed right now. Like if I say like I feel super overwhelmed. Anyway, so, and then the last thing I would say is like learning to pay attention. The reason we call rhythms of attention, that we use that phrase, is because we're paying attention to our own hearts, like heart, mind, body, like paying attention to ourselves.
Yeah.
Not in a self-centered way, but like I can't know what's going on in me. I can't even know what Jesus is doing in me if I'm disconnected from my heart and my mind and my body. So paying attention to what's going on inside, paying attention to the other person. So in this case, my wife or my child, but paying attention to my wife, and then paying attention to Jesus. And so it's like, so
a lot of attention paying.
Yeah. And so sometimes I'm overwhelmed, or I'm too like afraid of conflict in the moment. I'm Enneagram 9. sometimes I shy from conflict, but Kristen sometimes will see it and be like, "You need a break." So yeah, it's just like so the rhythms they're very practical, but they're very healing, and they grow. When you talk about like the neuroscience behind it, it's really beautiful and cool to see like what healing and growth takes place from those things. But I'll pause there and keep it. That's yeah, that's good.
Thank you. Thanks for being vulnerable and sharing,
Yeah.
and also just being an example. You know, the rhythms in Church 101. We always say that it's not new information, but it's presented in a new way. And then your the example of just adapting it to what works for you too, and making it be okay. So if we are church, what does that look like for us? How can we best listen to each other and listen to Jesus?
Yeah.
And that's beautiful, especially navigating, your own personal stories together, and maintaining a family, which is huge. Not your family's huge, but the holding a family together is huge and important. So
when I'll just give one more example, non-family example, but in 2020, I won't get, this could be a very long story. I think we might play it on this live stream sometime during the week, a video I made with my friend and what we call a Church of Two partner. In 2020, there was so much tension and polarizing stuff happening, and the news, and like everybody was drawing lines in the sand. And anyway, there was a chunk of time where my Church of Two partner, we were already a year and a half into doing daily Church of Two. But all of a sudden we found ourselves on sort of like political opposite sides, political opposite, disagreement, whatever. But those things impact our emotions and our hearts and our bodies. And so I have like a sort of like intellectual opinion and feelings about what was some of the things that were happening in the news, but so did he, and he was hurting and he was grieving. And I was like, I don't know how to do this. Like, we've done Church of Two for a year and a half, and I feel like I don't know if we will survive 2020. Like, I don't know if our friendship could survive. We wanted it to, but it's like all we're seeing around us is people that don't. If you disagree about my thing, then forget it. It's over. So it was really raw. Yeah, it was really raw. It was really painful. And so, but I remember he said, he was like, I understand. And he said, maybe we sort of like tiptoe, and we go a little slower. And because the point is to listen deeply to my friend or my person, whoever, and to hear them, and to kind of like to hear how they're feeling. And so we did that, and it was challenging. Luke 10 actually put out some like it was called Speaker Listener, so we practiced that too, like just practicing listening in these more volatile environments. And man, it was like the most beautiful, rewarding, enriching year because we did it. And so our skills increased, our relational skills increased, the capital that's like invested into the relationship increased. And it's like all of a sudden we feel like bulletproof. Like, I could tell you anything. You can tell me anything. Because we don't need to agree to be joy-filled. We don't need to agree to be strong, relationally connected.
Yeah. So are you saying that a disagreement actually brought you closer together?
Yes.
What?
Yes, very much. Yeah, like I'm to the point of like being grateful for it. And it also like formed our respective opinions and views, because it's like he's not just the guy on social media that I want to say is stupid, whatever. He's my closest friend, and I love him, and I want to be there for him. And maybe I disagree with why he's grieving or something, like the details behind it, but he's still grieving.
You can still be there for him, even
Yeah.
though you're not grieving.
Yeah. And then I have to practice the practice of like restraining my opinion at that moment, like just shut up, like he has grief.
Yeah.
So anyway, it was really
Wow.
beautiful.
Thank you for sharing. So I think we have like 20 minutes left.
Okay.
Ryan Patterson made a donation.
Yay!
Ryan, I don't know if you're still watching, but hello, thank you. He says,
Of
hi
course.
all, have a
Oh, it's
great
cool.
day.
I didn't know it would show it like that. That's really cool. There's a little like donation fee on the side there.
Yeah. Oh, that's very
Nice.
fun. If you're joining in or you're watching, please leave a little message in the chat to ask Zach a follow-up question or anything. Just let us know you're here. That would be great to know.
I'm gonna add some emojis into the chat there. Unicorns. Boom. Unicorns. Okay.
Nice. Oh, can we add our own chats? Oh, we
I guess so. I just
can.
did it. Yeah.
Wow. I didn't know that. I didn't try that. So are you up for one more curious question that's not personal, but it's curious kind of around Luke 10?
Sure.
Yeah. And this is a John White question.
Great.
He's asking, what is your vision for Luke 10? And what do you see for this community long term? And maybe that's too big to answer, so you don't have to, but you can.
I kind of want to like react to the question, because what a weird question, John. Think about, like, John is the founder of this organization. John is literally the founder, or John and Kent Smith founded it. I think those two, right? They were like the initial founders.
Yeah, he
like
also
2007.
John and Kent, and he's also, his current title is the Vision Champion.
Yeah. So it's like, why are you asking me that question? Yeah, I'm not. Just to clarify for anyone watching, I have no like traditional visionary role in the organization. So I just think the question is funny from that traditional perspective. And also, like, that is the nature of Luke 10. It's very participatory. It's very inclusive in the way it, like, the celebration of diversity of thought. It's crazy. And so he's asking, say it again. What's your vision?
What's your vision for Luke 10, or what do you see for this community in the long term? He's basically asking us what we're dreaming for of Luke 10, or where we see its potential, which I think is really, I think it's a fun question. You summarized it very well. We don't run the organization. We kind of like do the work, I guess, to make it run. But the vision is definitely John, and just to hear him asking this question of everybody on staff, like, this is in the list of questions for everybody. So maybe he'll join and he can clarify that question. He was going to join in 15 minutes to. Oh no, he was going to join at 11:45, not 10:45.
That's fine. I also know that John doesn't mind answering it, maybe not the way that he intended, but to draw out what's going on inside of a person. So which we call educing, another word. So I see Luke 10 as an organization that models a lot of things that are missing in the broader church world. But yeah, it's like it's hard. Like there's a movement. There's like, Jesus is up to something around the world, and we're kind of like taking part in that in a really cool way, and it's still sort of like on the didn't end. A lot of the people that are in these, not just Luke 10, but this type of more quiet relational movement, heart to heart, emotionally healthy stuff, like a little more organic. I think it's still quiet and under the radar, but it's kind of coming up. And so I see Luke 10 as a model of essentially our values. Like the values that we have are embodied. They're not just on the wall, but it's not on a plaque. Like every value that we have is embodied in practices that we do. So like being joy fueled and checking in, those go hand in hand. Being Jesus led and listening to Jesus and paying attention to Jesus, those are practices. We talk about a community of practice. So that's one of the values, and so we're not just handing out information. We're inviting people to participate in something that's human to human, that's participatory, that's very relational. So anyway, we have 5 values, and they all have these like practices involved in them. And so I think as we do that, we're modeling for the movement a way of being in the world. I also see Luke 10 as not, I think there will be a lot of other expressions of this movement that might get more popular, that might, take it and run with it in more of like a marketing way, a markety way. And I know Luke 10 will we bless it. But we'll just keep doing what we're doing, which is listening to Jesus, checking in, and kind of drawing from the community, the voices in the community, and growing in that way, and then modeling it. So yeah, I don't know, it's tough. I'd love to say like another unlearning is like the vision traditionally is like it's always gotta be big. It's like we're gonna be in I don't know. It's like it has to be this like big thing, or it's not valid. And so Luke 10 is interesting because I really don't know. It's like a few years ago when we were listening about different things that we were thinking about doing, strategies and things, we felt like Jesus was like telling us to stay fairly hidden and small. It's like, who does that?
We have not marketed Luke 10 at all for the past 10-ish years or so.
Yeah. And I'm like my marketing brain, when I first showed up, I was like, oh, do you know that you can do like these free ad grants for nonprofits and like spend like thousands of dollars on advertising, da 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 da.
And you're like, yeah.
And it was like I didn't even feel like shut down about it. It was just, you were like, yeah. And then we listened together. I think it had already there had been some listening. It was like, this is where we are right now. We're in like hiddenness, and which is anyway, beautiful thing. So my vision is whatever Jesus, we'll just keep embodying and modeling those values and practices.
Yeah, we'll have to come back and do a listening round maybe in a week or so, and see if Jesus tells us anything different.
Yeah. And then even like sort of like relating it to this week, we're going live with organizational meetings, and like again, it's modeling what we believe is like a really healthy, joy fueled organization. I've never seen this done, but we know that because of these practices that we have, we know how to navigate anything. I think, I don't know, maybe something will come up and it'll be really hard. I don't know, but we know how to navigate conflict. We know how to care for people in disagreement. We know how to participate in decision making in a really joyful way. And so anyway, I think everything, what I see is what we're already doing, is just modeling and growing like that. It's those little seeds, and they'll grow into the tree. What did Jesus say? The mustard seed, it plants, and then it grows, and the birds, hang out in there for whatever.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Tough question. Was there a second part?
I think it was the same question twice. So he said, "What's your vision for Luke 10?" And then, "What do you see for this community long term?"
Mm.
But so I think you answered both of those kind of.
Yeah.
Just the other, you were saying, other organizations might get bigger or something might come off. Luke 10 is a training organization. We don't want to make tiny Luke 10s everywhere. We just want to train you to do what Jesus has for you and then release you to go do it
Yeah.
in whatever way, whatever capacity you can. So. Oh, Katie left a message. So awesome to hear your hearts behind the experiment. Appreciate your story about the political disagreement with your CO2 partner and how it brought you closer together and developed compassion in your hearts.
Yep. Thanks, Katie.
All right. If anyone, this is really weird that we can't see who's watching or how many people are watching. I don't like that feature. We'll have to tell Rally Up. They need to work on that. Maybe they're watching. Who knows?
Oh, Rally Up is watching.
No, I don't know if they are or not. They said they'd like pop in, but I don't know what that means.
Yeah.
Well, if you are watching, this is the part of the show where we ask if you have any follow-up questions for Zach.
Yep. So you throw them in that chat. I think you'll probably have to sign in with Google login or Facebook login, or make up a Rally Up login. Yeah. Can you say the second part of that last question again? I was still kind of pondering it.
Yeah. What do you see for this community long term?
Oh, okay, yeah. I was going to kind of comment on that. Another thing that I see with Luke 10 is that they hold the organization itself kind of like lightly. Even as it grows and all kinds of exciting things are happening and we're all over the world now, it's still very much like, if Jesus isn't in this, then let's just be done. And I've heard that said before, like people have said that sort of thing, but I've never seen it embodied in listening to Jesus to the detriment of financial gain or to the detriment of adding your numbers and stuff like that. But I've seen Luke 10 do it multiple times. So another part of that like future is, I don't know, like maybe Luke 10 is a beautiful temporary thing, and maybe in 5 years there will be new Luke 10, and I believe that we would do that, like that the people of Luke 10 would be like, I sense that we're coming to an end as an organization. It's because it's an organization, and it's Jesus led. So I hope not. I think Luke 10. I always say it's my favorite organization. Even calling it an organization sometimes is like feels dishonoring to what it really is.
Yeah. Well, I like to use the term organism because it's alive.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's an interesting
any questions
thought.
coming in?
I'm sorry? No. Nope. No questions yet. Jonathan, Karine, John, if you are there and have a question, please ask Katie. You might have left, but if you're there, please ask a question.
I'll also check my Instagram because I told people that we were going on.
Oh, nice.
Maybe I should have lived the Instagram.
Oh.
Someone said, it's midnight right now in Australia. I'm about to sleep. Are you going to be able to record the live to share later?
Yes.
I hate to miss the story.
They can go to the experience page to watch replays. I just got an unsubscribe notification from someone that I know. Oh, here we go. Sarah. Sarah has a question. Can you speak more to a practice that has facilitated some of the most growth in your life? Like maybe an actual example of one. Thank you for your question, Sarah.
Yeah. Speaking more to a practice that facilitated the most growth. Okay. So, I think, okay, so that's actually super difficult. But there are really three core ones that I play with every day. But they're involved in a broader practice. So I'm going to talk about that. In Luke 10, we have, I've already talked about this, but we teach people to do Church of Two. And so Church of Two is two practices daily with one other person, or as close to daily as possible, we say. And I think we word it like that because the point is to learn to be together as often as you can out of joy, but like not like, oh, the day ended and I didn't talk to my CO2 partner.
I failed. I'm the worst. Yeah, we don't
so
want
it's
that.
Like, I love my CO2 partner, and sometimes we go like a week if we're super busy and we don't talk. And then I'm like, I miss him. Like I hold him here. So, but yeah, so the two practice. This is like total like spoiler for our Church 101, but who cares?
Do it.
So
Give it.
So the one practice is checking in from the heart, and that is just at the core, it's sharing it's sharing how you're feeling. If you have a hard time sort of like accessing that part of your life at all, we recommend this acronym called SACHET with a T. And it's sad, angry, scared, happy, excited, tender. And tender, I hear people use it in a sort of heavy way. Like I feel tender, I'm like a heavy, like you just got tenderized, like tender like that. And then there's tender, like you just hold like affection and love and care for somebody like that sort of tender. So sad, angry, scared, happy, excited, tender. There's all kinds of emotions and there's all kinds of feelings and thoughts and body stuff that you can share. But at the core, it's like when you're first starting, you might just say, I feel sad. And I can't even explain why, I just do. And so you grow into that. But yeah, so checking in and then listening to Jesus is the other of the two practices, listening to Jesus. And again, that is paying attention to what Jesus is saying and doing and guiding in your life. And then sharing that with your church, your CO2 partner. Yeah, and there's a lot that can be involved with that, and but yeah, a lot of times it's just like getting a sense of it. And then so one of the things we make sure we do is it's not this authoritative like it's kind of like I sense this and I'm still learning to pay attention to Jesus, and I feel like he's saying this, or he's guiding us in this, or I feel like Jesus feels really just glad to be with us today, and it's like, but yeah, so it's paying attention.
So checking in
emotions into Jesus.
Sorry, you cut off there for a second, so I started to rephrase what you were saying. Okay. So checking in on a heart level as close to daily as possible, and the practice of listening and paying attention to not only your heart, but Jesus' heart as well, are two practices that have kind of revolutionized your life.
Yep. So it's revolutionized because I do it alone, and it's revolutionized because every day, or as close to daily as possible, I'm with this dude, Dan, and now I'm doing it with my family, and it expands. It kind of like, it's a little bit viral. It's very viral, and so I end up really connecting on that heart level with a lot of people. And I'm not like, hey, do you want to check in? I'm not scaring them with like some sort of language or therapy session, but it's just like, I want to know how you feel. I care about you, and I want to know how you feel, and I want you to know how I feel, and what's on my mind and what's on my heart, because that's how we can connect and build healthy bonds. and then the Jesus piece. Obviously, we want to be Jesus led. We a lot of times, a lot of the questions that people have about
We have another question.
Okay, I'll just say this last thing.
Yeah.
A lot of the questions that people have like about this stuff, because it's very different, and so they say, "What about this? What about this? What about this?" A lot of times, it's we go to Jesus and we ask, "What do you want us to know about that?" And so, yeah, a lot of times the snags that we find are like, or like, Jesus, I feel like I'm supposed to be doing something on Sunday morning. Like, what do you want us to know about that? And so he can guide us in those things. And if you're with other people, like a church or two or a small whatever, you kind of share. I feel a sense of obligation towards Sunday morning, but I don't know if that's real. And someone says, "Well, I really value it, and I'd love to be with you on Sunday." And anyway, so it's kind of like this relational thing going on. But yeah, so those are the two. I can't say the third because we're moving on to a question. But it's just a gratitude practice that we do in Luke 10 called appreciation story.
Well, that's actually part of the question, so you can you can answer it. Johnson asks, Zach, I heard you on a recorded call talking about the value of appreciation stories. Has that become a regular part of your personal life? And if so, how is that impacting you?
Yes. It's funny because I was talking to my CO2 partner about a week ago or a couple weeks ago, and we were talking about journaling, and I was like, I just follow like a really simple framework for my journal. I open it up, and it's digital now. So I just open my journal app, and I check in, and I pay attention to Jesus, listen to Jesus. Or no, I check in, and then I do an appreciation story, and I listen to Jesus. So, and I try to do that every day. I definitely don't do that every day at all, but one day. So yeah, appreciation stories are very important to me to do by myself and with my family. We do it with our kids. We do it at bedtime. We do it at dinner. And even like my wife and I will share. To catch everybody up, an appreciation story. Where'd the question go?
Look, Karina also did one.
Yeah. An appreciation story is sharing something that happened today, yesterday, or 25 years ago that made you feel thankful, grateful, happy, excited, electrified, loved, cared for, like a powerful, positive memory. And then you tell the story, you give some of the details, and then you focus in on sort of like a moment where you felt something, and you share how you felt emotionally, and you share how you felt in your body. And this has a lot of like applied brain science stuff. It affects your brain and your body. And I think
I'm wondering, before we get into explaining it more, I'm wondering if you can share one, maybe 2 minutes before we get to the next question.
I like this modeling. All right. Yes. Wow. Okay. Appreciation story. Okay, so I woke up kind of busted, tired a week ago, and just peeling myself off the bed. I think it was probably a rough night with the babies, and I went downstairs, and Kristen was up, and I heard the pan sizzling something delicious. I think she's making biscuits. She's been experimenting with biscuit recipes. So the smell hit me, and the sun was coming through our kitchen window onto the backs of the babies who were sitting in their high chairs eating, and they were just smiling and doing their thing, and they always give me joy just looking at them. I get a big smile on my face. And Kristen was just cooking and taking care of the babies, and yeah, so that moment, that window, that spot right there, I just felt like I felt happy and grateful and warm, like almost physically warmed. And I felt light. I felt very cared for because it was late. It was normally I'm like we're both up and wrestling babies at like
Mm.
whenever they decide to get up. It could be like
Mm.
5, it could be 4:30. And so I know that Kristen had been up for a while, and now she's doing babies and cooking, and the beauty of the sunlight coming into the windows and seeing our backyard, which is like I love our backyard, and so yeah, I felt very cared for and loved and um, fortunate, and I felt connected with my wife, um, and yeah, kind of like this rising. Um, I don't know, like the swelling of of all of those things, but like in my body physically.
Yeah.
So like all of a sudden I went from like this tired to like really energized and a very positive moment. So yeah,
Mm.
that's appreciation story. I
Thank
didn't time it,
you.
so I don't know if that's 2 minutes, but that's an appreciation story.
I think it was about 2 minutes.
Yeah, that's an appreciation story. And
Great.
so you can write them down, you can tell them, and they have extra benefits if you share them, kind of like at that brain level.
Yeah. So we have another question
Okay.
from Karin, and she says, you said you went through a painful time in the church you attended before joining Luke 10. Can you share more about how you were able to overcome the pain? I am still in that process.
Yeah. Thank you. I'm actually telling that. I'm in the middle of that story on Instagram too. I told the first part of the story a few days ago, and I'm writing the second part. Hopefully tonight. We'll see. Um, but how did I overcome the pain?
Yeah.
Um, so first, I would say everyone responds differently to those situations. Um, I know for me, I, in a sense, seem to have kind of like healed from it faster
I'm losing you.
than my wife.
You're
Oh,
there
you
you
can't hear
are.
me?
I got you now.
Okay.
You were very broken up. You said, I know might look like I've healed something, 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 and then your wife.
Okay, I'll just start over. So
Thank you.
I was saying that everyone heals differently and at different paces and through different ways. So I'm not prescribing or even saying this should be expected or normal because you have to heal as you heal. You have to heal as Jesus leads you. Um, and so only He decides that pace. Um, and yeah, so there's a lot there. And so anytime I say this stuff, I don't want people to think that their healing process is wrong or does that make sense?
Yeah, or
Hillary?
that there's one way to figure it out.
Yeah,
I tend to look at it in my own journey, just a continual recovery process, because
yeah,
it is painful, and I don't
yeah,
know if it'll. At this point, it's not going away anytime soon.
yeah,
So I may as
yeah,
well learn how to live with it, acknowledge it, and grieve it when I need to, because some
yeah,
days are heavier than other days.
yeah. So as far as the practicals, um, people, healthy people, and yeah, I think the church as family was a turning point for me when I realized there was like a moment just a couple months after everything initially happened years ago, and I reached out to a couple of friends who I retained after everything fell apart and we lost like all of our community. There was a precious few, and I just said, "Hey, I just wanted to talk," and so they were there to listen and it kind of like grieve with me,
Mm.
and so that was the start of it, and that was still
Mhm.
like a year and a half before I ran into Luke 10. but it was like, but those became lifelines for me, like people who are safe and are that seemed fairly safe where I could grieve. Um, and then yeah, yeah, that was just a big piece. And then I think just making sense of it also. So there's like that sort of right brain relational, like I need people who are safe and that who will listen. And so I had that. And then like I think there was like some more analysis going on too. Like what is church processing that way? So I was reading books and taking notes, and so there's some of that too. But yeah, it was definitely like safe people. I went to a therapist, um, and yeah, it was really people. So and then like longer term when I did start doing like checking in and listening to Jesus and appreciation stories, it's so simple and like but but it's what it is.
Mm.
Because it allows me to be fully there. Years later, like still getting triggered from something and like crying and or being afraid to go to the store because I might run into somebody that was there. So yeah, being able to check in with people who Jesus put in my life, safe people, and be listened to. So I think with Luke 10, not to keep plugging Luke 10, but like the practice that we teach about heavy emotions is like I have people who are safe to not fix me. They just say what you need, and so anyway, I have that long term, and then appreciation stories um, are good for healing. They just are from sort of like this from that like brain science nerd fact the facts about it is like if you stay in appreciation for a few minutes. I think it's like if you do like 5 minutes a day, a few times a day, and do that for like 30 days. I forgot. But anyway, as much as you can do it, it literally can like heal and transform your brain,
Mm.
and help you to kind of yeah. There's a lot involved with that. Yeah. So Life Model Works was also an important resource that we use in Luke 10, but is also separate from Luke 10. And they taught me a lot about like returning to joy and building those skills to if I feel heavy, if I feel scared, I feel ashamed or like disgusted about the experience that I had or whatever, and then like being able to like sense the presence of Jesus and return to joy together. But yeah, so it's the same stuff. It's checking in and listening to Jesus and even having Jesus brings healing too as you're listening. Who would have thought?
Yeah, right. Kadeen, if you have a follow-up question, you're welcome to add that in here if you're still watching. Thank you. Thank you for sharing. How much time did you have for today? And do you want to do a closing round or debrief round? Oh, I think we got another question actually. Kadeen says, thank you for your vulnerability. It just helps to listen to other people's experiences.
Thank you, Karin. I'm also just sad with you. I know Karin. We talk every couple of weeks. She's great. She's in Lebanon. But even though I don't know how to pronounce her name properly, has that French thing. That's what I thought.
I don't know if that was right, Karin. I'm so sorry.
That's why I'm like I feel like yeah. Okay, so but yeah, I'm just it stinks, and I hate it that so many people that it's such a common story.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. So
I have time for a closing round or a debrief.
Yeah, great. Kadeen said we're doing great pronouncing her name. So well, why don't we do a closing round and then maybe a little debrief if you have time. For those listening, a closing round Oh, we've got Sarah asking a question. A lot of what you're talking about reminds me of restorative practices. It's really beautiful, the intentionality of everything you've mentioned.
Mm.
Yes. Thank you, Sarah. Thank you. I want to hear more about your restorative practices, but I don't know how to reach out to you at all. That's really hard being live and not seeing you. So thank you. Closing round. We don't. I think Kent Smith maybe coined this phrase, and I'm not sure if it's him or he borrowed it from another scholar. But with the understanding that we don't just learn from experience, we learn from reflecting on our experience. So we tend to close all of our meetings, discussions, everything with a closing round. What do we take away? What did we see happen? And just kind of look back on our moments together.
For me, I think I'm just I was grateful to go back a little bit and retell. I don't know if I've got to that much detail. I mean, it wasn't that much detail, but to go back and retell out loud the process, my story, and yeah, I just felt grateful to do that, and whoever's on for them to hear. Yeah, I'm happy to share. So I felt really honored and grateful to tell that story again.
Thank you. I honestly think that's going to be my closing run as well. I posted on our Instagram. He's more than just the genius behind the videos, and we don't get to do this type of gentle curiosity often. We get to know each other, but not in this way, I guess, because a lot of our meetings are marketing related or communications related. So it was really, I don't know, important or special to have this time with you where we are working, but really just getting to hear more about Zach and more about you and what brings you here. So, yeah, thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah.
All
right. So, how much time do you have left until you need to leave?
I have time.
Okay, great.
Are we? We're live, but are we still continuing with like just to kind of like frame it for people who are watching?
Yeah,
I guess the end of Gentle Curiosity, and are we moving on to work? Because we are live streaming most things this week, so.
Yeah, we're going to live stream everything. Why don't we end the session so that way your Gentle Curiosity is one recording, and then we'll pick it up. And this is an experiment because I have no idea what's going to happen. So I'm going to end the session to end the recording to make it available to you all. And then, oh geez, it's asking me, do I want to end the session? I can't undo this action. Here we go.